All right, let's test this. Whoa, feel that rumble. More power, shake it up. That's the ticket, perfecto. Winding down now.
Everyone keeps arguing about Social Security like it's running out of money. Yeah, but that explanation never really sat right with me. I went back and looked at how it's actually measured over time. Measured how? Wait, those two lines start together? Yeah, same contributions, same people. Then why do they drift so far apart? Because one line treats it like short-term money. And the other? Like a long-term obligation. So it's not that it's underfunded by taxes. Nope. It's that it's measured in the wrong metric. Nothing new about that. Nobody can fix this problem by arguing about money, but you can fix it by getting the measure right.
Good to see you guys again. I hope you are ready for this interview. I hear you two brainiacs have an amazing solution to this perpetual debt crisis plaguing our nation.
Well, Jackie, we've crunched the numbers, and it's surprisingly simple. As we all should remember, money to be money has to fulfill multiple functions: a unit of account, a store of value, a standard of deferred payment, and a medium of exchange.
Okay.
Long-term obligations fail when measured at the lowest value function of what we call the metric standard, resulting in money as debt debasement.
That sounds rather technical.
Long-term obligations fail when coupled to the wrong class of the metric measurement, which is the original unit of account.
All right, sounds like fairly standard theory, but you seem to be making a distinction in the class of money itself?
Of course it is, but we went deeper into history to determine where the money accounting system...
Aha, so that's the discrepancy.
Exactly, the numbers diverged. The accounting system diverged from the classical guiding principles. Modern systems collapse these into a single debt commodity hybrid, aka the FRN dollar. Long-term obligations fail from measure of debasement.
Start together?
Yeah, same contributions, same people.
Systems succeed or fail based on how value is defined, measured, and legally treated, not on the physical properties of the metal.
What are you basing this theory on?
Dickson H. Leavens Silver Money, published 1939.
Wow, you are going way back.
Historical monetary systems distinguish clearly between money as a commodity and money as a unit of account. As documented by Leavens and Silver Money, silver functioned for centuries not merely as a tradable metal, but as a legally defined monetary system supporting contracts, credit, and internal price stability across multiple civilizations. The success or failure of these systems depended primarily on institutional and accounting treatment rather than on fluctuations in metal supply.
So this is what all the buzz is about? So are you guys saying we need to return to the silver standard?
No. Our idea is based on changing a key feature of the underlying systems themselves. When silver was reclassified from a monetary unit to a commodity, purchasing power erosion followed mechanically. This historically reclassified in depreciating instruments despite being tied to long-duration contractual obligations.
Ted, your thoughts on the silver standard?
The experience of India and China under silver standards, as documented by Leavens, illustrates a critical distinction between internal monetary stability and external price volatility. Domestic obligations denominated in silver retain functional stability even as international exchange values fluctuate.
That's an interesting perspective. Can you elaborate?
Leavens' discussion of coining the Seigniorage underscores that inflationary breakdown that it does not arise from the physical limitations of monetary media, but from the reassignment of Seigniorage away from its stabilizing public role.
Interesting.
When Seigniorage ceases to serve the preservation of the unit of account and is instead captured indirectly through debt issuance, long-term obligations are necessarily written down in real terms.
So are you saying inflation is a hidden tax?
This mechanism closely parallels the modern treatment of Social Security contributions collected under public authority but stored in instruments that deny the public the very Seigniorage historically used to protect monetary value. Leavens' analysis clarifies that Seigniorage historically functioned as a form of public credit protection rather than as discretionary revenue extraction. Interesting take.
So a safeguard against exploitation?
By defining monetary units through coinage, sovereign authorities created a surplus that served both fiscal and stabilizing purposes.
That's fascinating, Bill.
And it led to modern banking.
So, Bill, what inspired your book on economic history?
By defining monetary units through coinage, sovereign authorities created a surplus that served both fiscal and stabilizing purposes. That's a solid point. The erosion of this function in modern monetary systems represents not an evolution but a regression of societal values. This was a conceptual retreat from earlier understandings of money as a public accounting framework. Historically, Seigniorage linked three functions into a single institutional loop: the sovereign definition of the unit of account, the preservation of monetary value over time, and the funding of public obligations. When this loop remained intact, public credit accumulated without requiring perpetual adjustment. When it was broken by redefining money solely as circulating debt, public trust funds became structurally incapable of maintaining real value. The modern Social Security dilemma is thus not a failure of financing, but a failure of accounting continuity.
That is a very unique point. I rarely hear anything like this in typical conversations involving economic theory. This is deeper than I expected.
I'm glad you think so. It's a perspective born from experience. The real kicker is that the storehouse of value function vanishes from any real meaning of money itself. The argument does not advocate a return to historical metal standards, nor does it assign intrinsic value to gold or silver as commodity. Metallic references are used solely as historically verifiable units of account that illustrate the distinction between value preservation and price volatility.
This is quite the theory when you realize what the issues have been all along.
As Leavens emphasized, the success or failure of monetary systems depended on institutional treatment rather than on the physical properties of the medium itself. The relevance of historical metal-based systems lies in their accounting logic, not in their actual material composition. That's a fascinating perspective.
From my understanding, inflation adjustments already handle this shortcoming of paper money.
Inflation adjustments compensate ex post for lost purchasing power. They do not preserve value ex ante. A system that requires perpetual adjustment to remain solvent is exhibiting the very instability under examination.
That's a compelling point, Bill.
Precisely. Contracts of this nature depend more heavily, not less, on stable units of account. Treating them as if they were transactional balances misclassifies their economic function. This problem was already well understood in 1935. In modern times, economists simply chose to forget it. A bondholder bank is not the sole economic creditor.
That's a bold claim. Can you elaborate?
The public absorbs a real cost through dilution and the perpetual inflation of the debt dollar. Citizens provide the productive base and compulsory contributions, yet their claims are subordinated to nominal debt instruments.
Now, why does all of this point to your solution?
The tax dollar is a deliberate misclassification of the metric of money.
Okay.
Consider, if every tax dollar was accounted as a silver certificate, literally as it entered the system books from 1935 till today, the resulting storehouse of value is inflation-proof. Circulating debased paper notes are technically just tokens of money and are manipulated as such. The silver dollar was a standard of the unit of account. So yes, the commodity value was important, but the Seigniorage function was about the measure, not the metal. Our modern ruler is like taffy on a hot day, followed by a cold one. You did not change only the measurement of paper shadow. You can never save enough depreciating dollars to make up the increasing printing of those very same dollars. It is a backwards infinite loop, slyly disguised as a money press. But in the early days, a citizen could walk into a mint with their silver ounces in any form and walk back out with a silver dollar. Pure convertibility, and the government made their coining fee in the process. Now, a printing press costing 10 cents to print a note, the face value is purely arbitrary, a 1, 100, a million, it is still 10 cents of ink and linen. The poison is that it is a debt, interest compounding into infinity, and no mechanism in place to stop its ruin of a nation's actual money system. By changing one small thing, the metric of that tax dollar from labor, all types, that silver metric protects that unit as a system function of long-term preservation of value. Which means, drum roll, every tax dollar going into the system is accounted into the system by the metric of silver stored as units of the metric standard, and as silver certificates, the unit buys debt dollars at market price. So a $1 billion storehouse of silver metric dollars via the Treasury buys Federal Reserve dollars to fund all government payouts. It is one superior metric buying the other inferior one in favor of the public.
From what I am hearing, you and Ted are advocating that income tax receipts be reclassified as silver dollar certificates, a metric distinction for internal use only.
Using the Seigniorage principle to bypass the critical defects of inflated debt notes. The Social Security funds would be fully solvent, as $50 billion in the silver metric dollar buys the debt at current market value.
Silver metric dollar, that's a new one.
I'm in. Where do I sign? Right here. This is all accounting, however, not moving massive stacks of coin around. The beneficiary checks their account balance, which remains classified by the Federal Reserve note metric. One silver dollar buys 100 Fed notes. Think about it. The inflation adjustment is in favor of the general welfare, not undermining it like a sinkhole of which there is no escape. This would reveal, however, how bad inflation really is, and thus expose the system's actual faults. Politicians do a real hat dance when it comes to discussions like this. All we are trying to do is get the word out and hope enough people realize it is in their best interest to make this a national concern, and maybe, just maybe, the system will be changed.
Hey, media, we're the stars here.
Without me, you're just noise.
We'll see about that.
Ouch! Stop pushing!
Fine, let's stick together.
Deal.